Hello and welcome to the Riyal Deal, coming to you from the Arabiya English headquarters. This is your weekly bulletin, bringing you all the latest business news, headlines and analysis from Saudi Arabia. Coming up, the foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia and China hold talks aimed at strengthening economic ties and boosting trade and investment between the two global powerhouses. Coming up, we're going to be taking an in-depth look at Saudi Arabia's rapidly transforming healthcare sector, which is a key focus of both Vision 2030 and increasing private sector involvement. And as Saudi Arabia prepares to host the Hajj pilgrimage, we examine the financial impact and the preparations being made for the 1 million foreign pilgrims expected to pass through Mecca. Hello and welcome to the programme. Nearly 3 weeks on from the visit to the kingdom by the US President Donald Trump, high-level talks have been held between the finance ministers of Saudi Arabia and China, the world's #2 economy and the kingdom's top trading partner. Well, as well as focusing on strengthening bilateral ties, the talks also focused on economic and financial cooperation between the two countries. While addressing his Chinese opposite number, Lan Fo-an, the Saudi finance minister Mohammed Al-Jaddan highlighted the significance of both countries' roles in the global economy and the importance of deepening trade and investment ties. Well, he also drew attention to Saudi investment opportunities for China in infrastructure, in tourism and industry. Well, at the start of May, both countries signed close to 60 agreements and MOUs at the Saudi-Chinese Business Forum, which was held in Beijing. Well, I'm joined, as we are every week, by Ali Raza, who is the strategic advisor at the Saudi Arabia holding company, who joins us from London. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Ali, first of all, how much of a role do Saudi Arabia and China play in each other's economies?
Well, Tom, it's a known fact that China is Saudi Arabia's largest trading partner, and exports to Saudi Arabia from China equaled north of $40 billion last year. Now, Saudi Arabia has maintained, I think, throughout this entire economic transformation process, that it is a land open for business, open for trade, partnerships and relationships. And China, given the economic dominance does it have, it makes sense that a close relationship is maintained. We saw the Trump visit a few weeks ago, and naturally, there is some tension from a trade perspective between the two sides. But once again, Saudi Arabia has demonstrated time and time again that it would like to see this region be a neutral ground and a welcoming ground to all to come participate in the trade, build partnerships, relationships, and collaborate. China is actually has been one of the largest greenfield FDI partners, inbound FDI partners over the last couple of years, with trade inbound totaling between 21 and 24, north of $21.6 billion. So, to add on to the commercial trade objectives, it's also, very reasonable to expect that a close relationship will be maintained as the nation seeks to diversify its economy and build industries, and considering the fact that FDI has a major role to play in that.
So what you're saying is that Saudi is playing it's a delicate balancing act, diplomatically speaking. We've got the world's #1 and #2 economies, the United States and China, both on side. I mean, how's it all working out?
Well, if recent events have been any indication, and I think we look closer to the sentiment across the world, yes, of course, there's some tensions between nations, between people, but when is there not tension between different regions? What's important, in my opinion, here is that Saudi Arabia continues to maintain the neutral approach, be respectful to the relevant partnerships that are being created with the different regions. There may be some points of contention, but if respect is shown to the various relationships and partnerships, then we can assume or expect that this will all see itself out in a positive manner. And I think that has been the case. There's a very long list of partnerships already in place, a lot of trade that is inbound towards Saudi Arabia, with China, for example, with the likes of BYD and Lenovo and Dahua, some of the entities that have created successful commercial partnerships in region. And similarly, there are many US enterprises, particularly in the last couple of weeks, that have had some very successful relationships created as well. So, if all these things are highlighting any sentiment, it's that not only is Saudi Arabia happy to be playing the role of the middle ground, it is a neutral ground, and people are respectful of that fact, and they are willing and capable of doing business nonetheless.
Stay with us, Ali. We're going to come back to you in just a moment. There are just a couple of related initiatives I wanted to discuss. And in a move that looks set to further cement ties between Saudi Arabia and China, a visa-free travel initiative has been announced for Saudi passport holders heading to China. All Saudi nationals, as well as the nationals of 3 other GCC countries, will be able to travel to China for business or tourism for up to 30 days without a visa. This is on a trial basis. And as well as strengthening ties with the Chinese mainland, Saudi Arabia is ramping up efforts to boost trading activity with Hong Kong. Well, with that in mind, a 2-day event hosted by Saudi Tadawul Group and Hong Kong Exchanges and Clearing Limited was held last week, where it was announced that ETF tracking bonds issued by the Saudi government have begun trading in Hong Kong. So, Ali, just to wrap up this segment, I mean, China is Saudi Arabia's largest trading partner, as we've been saying, and Saudi Arabia is China's largest trading partner in the Middle East. I mean, clearly, this is a relationship between Riyadh and Beijing that has grown extremely significantly during the course of the last 20 years, hasn't it?
Most definitely, Tom. Most definitely. First of all, I think it's important to recognize that China is a great trading partner to many nations, and even those that they perhaps have some contention with right now, whether we call it a trade war or tariff challenges and so on, they're still significant trading partners to all. So, in my opinion, the reality of the fact is that, such economic powerhouses and prosperous nations, you have to maintain some relationships with in any case. And Saudi Arabia has not only maintained the relationship, but the relationship has flourished. Over the last couple of years, especially with the Vision 2030 momentum well and truly underway, we've seen a number of very interesting and exciting developments there. The PIF committed some sizable investments and partnerships with China to the tune of nearly $50 billion last year. We've seen the creation of joint ventures in region, particularly in the photovoltaics, renewable energy, battery energy storage system space, which we know China excels at and has done for multiple decades now. So this relationship is flourishing. Earlier you mentioned there were some recent events with the Saudi Tadawul public market and at the Hong Kong Exchange. I think what we will continue to see is a culmination of capital partnerships, commercial interests, knowledge and technology being transferred to both sides, and an overall economic and industrial development which is built on collaborative efforts.
Okay, thanks for that, Ali. We'll be back with you in just a moment. Let's take a quick look now at some of the other stories we're following for you. And Saudi Arabia and Kuwait have announced the discovery of new oil in the partition zone. It marks the first finding since production resumed in the shared border area between Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and its adjacent offshore area back in mid-2020. Well, the kingdom says the discovery is, quote, highly significant. The Saudi budget carrier Riyal Deal may begin operating routes to Syria as early as July. That's according to the airline CEO Stephen Greenaway, who says approvals needed to begin flights to the war-torn nation have reportedly been granted. This follows another Saudi budget airline, Flynas, which has announced its first direct flight between Riyadh and Damascus as early as this week. All the Saudi carriers join a handful of international airlines in introducing or resuming flights to the country as sanctions against Syria are scaled back. And looking into Saudi Arabia's financial markets, the CEO of the Saudi Exchange says the country seeks to increase potential public offerings as it seeks to diversify its economy away from oil and develop its financial sector. Well, speaking to Bloomberg, Mohammed Al-Rumai says the markets can expect a series of IPOs from different industries, including tech and telecoms. Around 15 firms listed last year, with food and beverage taking the top spot. And the next highly anticipated IPO in the kingdom will come from the specialized medical company which operates hospitals in Saudi Arabia. Well, the retail subscription period will be the 15th and 16th of June, and the company has closed the books for institutional investors. Well, SMC is working with SNB Capital and EFG Hermes on the IPO. That leads us neatly into our next segment, because the healthcare sector is one of the many sectors of the Saudi economy undergoing rapid transformation. All driven by government initiatives, notably Vision 2030 and growing private sector involvement, healthcare has a critical role to play in the kingdom's economic diversification, and it contributes significantly to the non-oil GDP. We're now going to find out more about this sector, its long-term growth prospects, and how Saudi Arabia is firmly on the map for global medical tourism. Well, as we've been saying, healthcare is one of the kingdom's rapidly evolving sectors. But one company at the forefront of all this is the Specialized Medical Company, that is a leading private healthcare provider based in Riyadh. With an IPO on the horizon and major expansion underway, SMC is positioned as a key player in the region's healthcare future. We're going to cross to Riyadh now and speak to the company's CEO, Bassam Chahine. Dr. Chahine, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to speak to us. Could you just first of all give us a brief overview of SMC and its role in Saudi Arabia's healthcare sector?
Hello. SMC started in 1999 in the capital of Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, as a VIP center and a same-day surgery center 25 years ago, with the idea of providing superior healthcare to the resident of the neighborhood and the suburb that it was serving. And within a few years, it received positive perception from the population, and it started expanding organically in the same campus that it was initially, up to becoming one of the largest private hospitals in Riyadh. And shortly after, another hospital was built in East Riyadh, and also it was a very successful launch during COVID-19. And it was started the operation at 2020 Q1, despite all the uncertainties, and turns out to be the right decision. The hospital became successful and led the board to take a decision to expand further and build 3 new hospitals in north of Riyadh to cover the need of the population and the big development happening in the north of the city. And a few months later, the decision was taken to go public due to the quality, performance, and perception of patients. So the board took a decision to go IPO with a belief in going public, that it will add to the reputation of the hospital, to the exposure. It will improve the governance. It will improve the performance of the hospital on all levels. And this is why the decision was taken. The intention to float was announced in April. The institutional booking finished last week, and we have the individual subscription in the IPO after Eid. This is 15 to 16 of June, and hopefully we will be a publicly listed company before the end of June.
Okay, you make a lot of points there. I'm going to pick up on a couple of the things you just said there. Let's start with that IPO then. I mean, clearly a huge milestone for the company. What do you think it means for the next phase of growth for SMC?
We believe the IPO will give better governance practices. It will improve transparency and disclosure practices. Definitely, it will accelerate the growth, especially with the very ambitious plan to add to our capacity from the current around 600 beds to more than double, to become 1,275 beds, and from 250 clinics to 660 clinics. Being a publicly listed company, it's not only help you in the practices, the best practices of corporate companies and governance, but also it will help if you are in a growth path with a short period of time. And we are aiming to more than double our capacity in less than 5 years. So by 2030, our 5 hospitals will be fully operational in Riyadh, with a big market share in the north of Riyadh, where a lot of urban developments are happening. So we believe the IPO is a very good enabler, exposing the company and improving the performance, as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, I want to pick up on those 5 hospitals in just a moment. But sticking with the IPO, what sort of interest are you seeing at this stage from investors?
Of course, we are in a period where we cannot announce the results, but they were a very good interest from institutional booking, the initial one, and after we issued the supplemental prospectus, and we will be able to announce the subscription and the pricing on June 3, succeeded by the individual prescription. But we have seen a very good interest, and despite all the fluctuations that are happening in the market, the demand on healthcare is still high. The interest of investors is still high, especially in sectors like healthcare that is truly supported by the government under the Saudi 2030 vision. So those sectors like healthcare are really less affected with the market fluctuations, and we were able to see that in the past few weeks.
Okay, so Dr. Chahine, how do you think this is going to change SMC and everyone that works there? I mean, I'm talking about the IPO here. I mean, given you're going to be much more focused on profit and on the bottom line once you've listed, are you expecting a big change in the company?
It's one of the reasons when you consider going public is when you have solid performance. And SMC, since 2020, after the opening of SMC2 in east of Riyadh, has been having double-digit growth in EBITDA, in net profit, in revenue, and also in the number of patients and the quality of services that we are providing. And of course, when you become a publicly listed company, it's very important that to continue that growth, you continue delivering solid numbers to be able to satisfy the expectation of investors and also to fuel the expansion and the growth momentum. So we believe we are in a very good condition to continue with that growth. And probably the maximum benefit that investor will get is once all our projects are completed in 2029, and then all the investor will get the maximum benefit of such a investment.
Okay, Dr. Chahine, just before we move on from talking about the IPO, any details you're able to offer us or share with us about the pricing?
Yeah, the pricing that has been announced 1 week after the intention to float was within the range of 24 to 25 Saudi Riyal. The company is selling 75 million shares out of the total 250 million shares. This is 30% of the company. And the price range has been finalized, and the subscription, as I mentioned, has been completed for the institutions and investing companies. And this will be open to the public on the 15th and 16th of June. And we believe that the price range will be probably hitting the upper category of the announced pricing range.
Okay, thanks for that. Now, we were talking just a minute ago about how your Riyadh base, you got 2 hospitals there in Riyadh, 3 more under development. Only Riyadh, or are you planning to expand perhaps to other regions of the country or even beyond Saudi Arabia?
The legacy of SMC has been well known in Riyadh since 25 years ago. Now, we are always open to any opportunity outside Riyadh, although our first priority right now is to improve our market share and footprint and presence in the capital. That's why our short-term and medium-term expansion plan focus on the capital to ensure we cover all the major districts that are underserved and underpenetrated by healthcare providers. At the same time, we are also involved in privatization that will be announced soon with the government, and this is also in Riyadh. And whenever we see there is an opportunity that will not really affect our strong expansion plan in Riyadh, out of Riyadh, we will consider it, and it's always on the table for discussion.
Okay, now, Dr. Chahine, clearly healthcare is being transformed, like many other industries, by new technology, amazing innovations, artificial intelligence. How central is tech to your strategy at SMC?
SMC, since we started 25 years ago, we really embrace technology. We have developed our own IT team. We have developed all our software, or our modules, or our applications, and we kept on improving and adding and innovating since. Now, of course, the Saudi Arabia ecosystem is highly supportive for investment in technology, and we've seen the services provided by the Saudi government and many public systems are really one of the top in the world. And if you can see the effect, as one example only with the COVID-19, it was because of the use of technology and automation in Saudi Arabia that the response of Saudi Arabia were one of the best in the world. And SMC is, influenced a lot by that, and we have really prioritized investment in technology. Our mobile application, for example, has been developed in 2017. And in 2019, we were able to check in patients online virtually without having to talk to a reception or a nurse. So this online check-in was a feature 6 years ago, even 1 year before COVID was there. So the culture of innovation and using technology for patient experience improvement, having the patient in the center of the care, this also not only led to superior patient satisfaction, but also to operational efficiency. It's because of such technology and the use of some breakthrough features that we were able to see big numbers. We were able to really utilize our resources efficiently. And at the same time, we did not stop innovation. We've been adding features every few months. For example, at the beginning of the year, we have added the AI feature on the application itself after utilizing this internally in the hospital in 2024. Now, the artificial intelligence, it's a feature on our mobile application when any patient can ask AI to interpret in a very simple language what he's seeing as results, as reports. And we believe we are going into complete innovation in the coming few years, where medical care is going more into predictive based on the behavior, based on the past history, with the use of artificial intelligence. Healthcare is becoming more precise, more predictive, more smart.
Okay, you paint a picture there of a competitive landscape, amongst other things, for healthcare in Saudi Arabia. Sounds like everything's going really well for SMC, but what challenges do you face? For example, do you ever struggle to find the right talent or human resources?
Probably if you ask any healthcare executive in the world and you will tell him what's your challenge number one, it will be your question. Having the right healthcare talents on board. Probably we're fortunate in Saudi Arabia that we are operating in an environment where education was supported by the government very early. Since 30 years, Saudi Arabia has been investing in education, especially of doctors, and getting them with the best training and degrees all over the world. And those Saudi doctors are coming back and working in the public sector, and they are really adding value to the healthcare in general. Now, recently we have seen with the increase in emphasis on the private sector participation, as mentioned in the healthcare transformation program, we are seeing that shift where Saudi doctors are going to the private sector as they see more opportunities to grow. And also they are seeing the major expansions and the improvement in the services happening in the private sector. So fortunately, unlike other GCC nations, Saudi Arabia have a very good medical Saudi workforce, and the private sector is benefiting from this. And this is the way we are going forward, because this is a very strategic thing, investing in Saudi doctors. And we have taken initiatives not only accepting and recruiting and retaining Saudi doctors from the public sector, but we are also running a Saudi residency program for doctors. And we've been running that program for many years in multiple specialties. And every year we have doctors graduating from that Saudi board program. Many of them are offered a job in SMC. Regarding other paramedical staff, like ancillary, lab, X-ray, The market really is well served. We have a good percentage of the national available for hiring. The challenge of nursing, this is, it's a worldwide challenge. Even the most advanced countries in the world, like US, like Germany, they are suffering from unavailability of nursing workforce, especially after COVID, when that profession is becoming less acceptable by many students who are thinking of other specialties because of the stress and the uncertainties and the risk at that time. Now, of course, the world has suffered, but at the same time, the world was able to have a contingency plan by exploring new markets in which there is a strong and acceptable and accredited nursing program where you have some graduates available and not being able to benefit needed healthcare system like GCC and like in Europe. And we have seen SMC like other private sector, and we have seen also all companies going into new markets where hiring of nurses was not available in previous years. Like we used to get a lot of nurses from the Philippines in the 2010 to 2020. After 2020, hiring from the Philippines, it became a challenge for all healthcare providers in the world. And we've seen more new markets being open to us, including some countries in Africa and some countries in Far East. And I believe this correction in the market in terms of finding the right nursing talent is very important and will continue to be a challenge of all healthcare providers in the region, especially in Saudi Arabia. One final thing, it's important to know that we've seen more and more Saudi nurses joining the workforce. And this is very important, especially with the presence of very good programs in Saudi Arabia. And also nurses are finding the private sector as a very challenging and opportunity for them to grow. And we've seen more and more Saudi nurses joining the Saudi workforce in SMC.
Again, Dr. Chahine, just lastly, I want to ask you about health tourism. Is SMC seeing an increase in the number of people who come to Saudi Arabia from outside for medical treatment? And is SMC interested and focused on growing health tourism revenue?
Now, I've been in Riyadh for 25 years, and I remember 25 years, many of our patients used to come from GCC region, from Kuwait, from Qatar, from Emirates, from Bahrain. And all this shift of international patient was increasing with time. There are many multiple reasons for that. One of them, the very strong infrastructure of the healthcare system in Saudi Arabia. The last years, when you see Saudi Arabia opening up to the world, those mega projects, entertainment, retail, residential, attractions, it's the access to Saudi Arabia that is probably the easiest one in history. A lot of people from all over the globe can now access Saudi Arabia within an instant visa system. So this is all putting a lot of opportunities for Saudi Arabia to be targeted in a location in the region where will attract a lot of patients requiring international care. The care in Saudi Arabia has been always among the top in the region. Many hospitals in Saudi Arabia are ranked among the top hospitals in the world. The specialties and the experience and the expertise that you find in Saudi Arabia is unparalleled as compared to neighboring countries. So there are a lot of opportunity that we see in the future in terms of medical tourism. And I think the infrastructure and the ecosystem existing right now and what's happening in 2030 vision in terms of all those mega projects will all help in establishing more Saudi Arabia as a reference medical destination in the region.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. The CEO of SMC, that's the Specialized Medical Center, Dr. Bassam Chahine. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
We're going to stay with healthcare now, and we're joined here in the studio by Dr. Walid Zaher, who is a distinguished medical leader and innovator. You're also recognized, Doctor, as a top healthcare leader by Forbes Middle East. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Amongst other things, you are the founder of Rewind. I want to ask you, first of all, Dr. Zaher, you're described as being at the forefront of the transformative healthcare revolution in Saudi Arabia. Tell us a bit about that revolution.
So yes, thank you very much for hosting me. And Saudi, in the past few years, have taken the transformative journey, which includes healthcare, which being a part of the 2030 vision. And that is transform healthcare from treating diseases and being able to detect diseases to also being predictive and preventive. That means that there will be a decrease in the disease burden, which allows the healthcare regulators and the healthcare operators to focus more on the disease burden, but also to focus on a healthy population versus focusing on a disease or sick population. That gives you a society where there is more healthy people who are contributing to the society, more people who are contributing to the transformation journey of Saudi Arabia and the Vision 2030.
Tell us a bit about how healthcare is central to Vision 2030. In what ways?
So again, any society in the world is based on the contribution of their healthy individuals. And if you have a lot of sick people, then that for certain affects the momentum with this transformation is happening. So the focus and the initiative and one of the pillars of the 2030 vision in healthcare, one of them is the understanding the population of Saudi, understanding the background genetics of Saudi, understanding the disease burdens of the healthcare, and then applying that into actions that can prevent diseases instead of treating them. That leads to a society that has more healthy people, and healthy people are the pillar of executing the vision of 2030 for the country.
And that brings me to a question I was going to ask you later, but you mentioned it already. The Saudi Genome Program. It's an enormous database, isn't it? It's been built up over a number of years. Tell us how it works and what it's all about.
So the Saudi Genome Project is not a new initiative. It's actually an old initiative. It goes back to the mid-2010s. It's being relaunched now at the Saudi Genome Project 2.0 to cope with the Saudi 2030 version. But the Saudi Genome Project, in essence, is an ambitious project to understand the genetic makeup of the population of Saudi Arabia, and then trying to apply that to the existing healthcare by having a predictive and preventive and value-based healthcare. And that is the essence of almost all the new initiatives around the world. I was honored and lucky for a company that I owned previously, which we work with the government to do the national strategy for the relaunch of the Saudi Genomic Program, and to give insights about what is being done around the world and how can we reapply that on the Saudi Genome Project itself.
Okay. Can you give us an example of a practical application of how that information is then used, Dr. Zaher?
So, for example, let's take the example that you have previously said, cancers. By understanding the genetic makeup of Saudis, we get treatments that are done through clinical trials that are done outside of Saudi most of the time, which means the whole population that the clinical trial and the drug is being tested on are mostly from different people, maybe Caucasian, maybe African, maybe Asians, Europeans, but they're not Saudis, which means that while the clinical trial is positive and it's treating a lot of people, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it has the same efficacy when it comes to treating Saudi people. And by applying that knowledge from the Saudi Genome Project to drug development around the world, you can have diseases that are more versatile and more efficient in treating cancers, which mean less resistant people and more people who are recovering or being cured from cancers.
I know you're not sort of so much focused on the business side of things. You are, after all, a medical doctor. But there is a business argument to this, isn't it? That if you have a healthy population, you catch diseases before they become acute or serious. I mean, obviously, everyone's a winner, but there is also a financial advantage to all of this, isn't it? So that public money isn't wasted unnecessarily.
Of course, that's what they call the disease burden that a lot of healthcare regulators are going through. So every disease has a cost to be treated, and if you're able to actually detect or prevent or both, then you're decreasing the disease burden, which allows you to have a financial ease in spending this money on other things in the healthcare, let it be prevention or prediction or even keeping the people within a longevity / healthy aging perspective.
So it's more personalized for the Saudi population. Can it get more personalized beyond that and perhaps narrow down different segments or different gene pools within Saudi society and perhaps make medical treatment even more targeted than just saying you're Saudi, so this is the treatment protocol. Can you make it more personalized than that?
See, genomics is a very new subtype of medicine or science. And yes, while we're talking about a Saudi population, but there is a lot of intertwined genes between Saudi population and their neighboring countries and around the world. So we're not necessarily seeing diseases that are coming from a certain gene within a Saudi population, but maybe more prone. And if you discover new genes or new susceptibilities in the Saudi population, that doesn't mean that it's not applicable to other populations as well. And to add to that, Saudi is a part of the GCC and the Arabic countries. So we share a lot of common genes. So whatever applies to us maybe or most probably applies to other neighboring countries as well, because at the end, we have lived here in this part of the world for thousands of years.
Tell us a bit about longevity, because I think that's something that you're quite focused on, and you obviously are an expert on that. What breakthroughs have we seen in longevity, and in what ways do you think Saudi Arabia is really leading in this respect?
So longevity is this new branch where when we studied medicine 30 years ago, it did not exist. Even the word did not exist. It comes now from all the advances in medicine and science being applicable to beyond discovering and treating diseases. How can we keep healthy people healthy? And that's the essence of longevity. Longevity does not, in my humble opinion, is not trying to make people live longer. It's trying to make people live healthier and increase the quality of life versus, increasing the length of life. A person who's 70 years old could be 70 years old with a matching healthy biological clock, or could be having a 50 years old biological clock, which means he's 70, but he's having the healthy of a 40 or a 50 years old. And that's the essence of longevity. We're trying to hold or rewind the healthy aging clock, which is, again, inevitable in any person. We're trying to just hold it or rewind it or make people age, but with better quality of life. That is translated into either preventing diseases or keeping, the progression of disease halted at a certain stage. Saudi is one of the first countries in the region that have adopted the longevity notion on a national scale. That, for example, there is the mandate for the establishment of the NGO by His Highness, the Crown Prince of Saudi, which called the Evolution Foundation. This foundation is tackled for now into looking into the advanced sciences and promoting longevity-based practices, longevity-based medicine in Saudi Arabia. We are going to see a lot of changes in the healthcare based on the initiatives that are taken by the Evolution Foundation and other either public or private establishment in the region and especially in Saudi as well.
And what you've just said explains the name Rewind to me in greater clarity. How is society in Saudi Arabia reacting to this? Do you feel like these healthcare and longevity initiatives have captured the imagination of the Saudi public? Do you feel like everyone is on board?
Yes and no. Longevity and genomic sciences is because of their nature being new. It's not known to a lot of people. So a part of whatever the governments and certain institutions like Evolution is doing is educating the public about the existence of a parallel track than hospitals and being sick, which is sustaining or keeping yourself healthy. Once you educate people that you don't necessarily have to have a disease because you are aging. You don't necessarily have to. You can improve your lifestyle. You can improve your well-being by adopting certain practices. Of course, people are gonna adopt, these initiatives, but public education is a part of the longevity journey just because it's a new initiative and a new branch of medicine.
There is this ambition that Saudi Arabia should be on the map as a health and wellness destination. What's being done to put Saudi Arabia on the map and make sure it stays there as a center for medical and healthcare excellence?
I would say that Saudi is already on the map when it comes to, again, excellent healthcare, and that's one of the pillars of having longevity initiatives. You have to start from having an excellent baseline of healthcare, which Saudi already has. Again, I go back to the same example by having initiatives like the Saudi Genome Project or the establishment of Evolution Foundation. All of these and other things that goes within the pillars of the Saudi 2030 initiative for healthcare, all these localization of R&D and localization of research and development for pharma companies and drug development.
And obviously there's great ambition that Saudi Arabia should be on the map as a leader in healthcare and wellness. Are we starting to see an increase in the number of tourists coming to Saudi Arabia specifically for healthcare and medical treatment?
I would say yes. There was a boom in the number of tourism and tourists that's coming to Saudi because of the new initiatives that happened in the past few years. And I would say that in the next few years, we're going to see tourism as a part of the contributors to the Saudi GDP, and that's a part of the Saudi vision to diverse from petrol, and tourism is being one of them. And the initiatives that we have now with Al-Qidya, with NEOM, with the establishment of all of that, having medical tourism, which is a subset of tourism, is a no-brainer. It will happen. It's happening now. As a part of the big initiative of opening the country for tourism on multiple fronts, including medical tourism as well. Okay. And that also is led by the advanced healthcare and advanced healthcare institutions that we have in Saudi. We have some of the best hospitals in the world and some of the best doctors in the world, and all of that contributes to advancing medical tourism in Saudi.
And just lastly, you are, of course, an example of homegrown talent in Saudi Arabia. You did your medical studies initially in Saudi Arabia, your home country. I'm assuming a lot has changed since then. Are we seeing an increase in the number of applicants for medical studies, positions, roles in hospitals, roles in the medical field? Do you think this is a sector that's a magnet for an increasing number of homegrown Saudi doctors?
Of course, and medicine is one of these specialties where you need to be knowledgeable about what's happening around the world. It's not a local specialty, it's a worldwide specialty. You need to know the advances in North America and in Europe and in Asia and apply it to your home country. I would say now that we are in the phase where we're still seeking higher education outside, but we also are seeing applicants from other countries that are coming to be trained in Saudi Arabia, which is a testimony of how advanced is our healthcare. So that's, I would say, the shift from 30 years ago when I studied medicine in Saudi to now. Now we're teaching medicine around the world to other people.
And just very briefly, lastly, I mean, obviously you mentioned it earlier on that Saudi Arabia is diversifying away from oil revenue. Healthcare, do you think it's likely to be an increasing importance, contributing to that GDP bottom line? How much it actually contributes to the Saudi economy in the years ahead?
So this number is being increased by these initiatives. I think it's better to refer to the 2030 vision. It would have their expected numbers of how much healthcare and longevity and healthcare tourism would contribute to the GDP. But even 100%, we are seeing a drastic shift from Saudi doing medicine for Saudis to Saudi doing medicine for the whole world, and trying to localize and having the security for our own country, for drug development, for advances in medicine, for discovering our own pharmaceuticals as well, is a part of the whole contribution to the Saudi 2030 vision.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. We're out of time. Thank you very much indeed for coming to see us. Dr. Walid Zaher, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much.
Let's get a check of some other stories for you now. Saudi Arabia's artificial intelligence startup Humane, which was launched in early May and which is backed by the Public Investment Fund, is set to launch a $10 billion venture capital fund. This as the kingdom pushes ahead with plans to make it a global AI hub. Well, Humane's expansion strategy also includes establishing 1.9 gigawatts of data center capacity by the year 2030. Saudi Arabia's renewable energy utility firm Aqua Power says that it's signed a preliminary agreement to develop some 12.5 gigawatts of renewable energy generating capacity in Malaysia. This with an initial investment of up to $10 billion US. Well, Aqua says it's also signed a strategic partnership agreement with several Malaysian companies for energy and desalination projects. And the Chinese robo-taxi company WeRide has announced that it's expanding into Saudi Arabia. WeRide has been testing its driverless vehicles in Riyadh and elsewhere, and the company says it expects commercial services to start later on this year. And finally, Saudi Arabia is preparing to host the annual Hajj pilgrimage, which begins this week. Well, more than 1 million foreign pilgrims have arrived in Mecca to perform the Islamic ritual. It lasts several days and requires performing a series of rites. Well, with temperatures climbing to the high 30s and low 40s centigrade, Saudi authorities are taking additional measures to combat the effects of deadly heat. This includes more shaded areas, new cooler flooring tech, greater access to healthcare, the use of drones for monitoring, and even the use of AI to crunch data. Well, let's listen to what the Saudi Hajj minister had to say.
To mitigate the risk of heat, we worked on many different projects. We increased the shaded areas in walkways by more than 50,000 square meters. And also we established more than 400 water cooling units. On the other aspect, also we worked on new flooring technologies that reduce the heat when people walk in the different walkways. Also, we established more than thousands of misting fans to cool the temperature in the walkways. The Red Crescent increased their number of paramedics from 1,750 to 7,500 paramedics. And they established 71 mobile units where they can reach anyone in need in a very short time. We use a large number of sensors to monitor the movement of pilgrims across their journey. We use these to feed us with information about their movement and to ensure it's coherent with our crowd management plans, and it helps us to intervene in a fast way of if there is any risk and mitigate it We use advanced AI technologies to do this monitoring and get fast feedback.
The Hajj Minister speaking there. Well, let's wrap up this program with a quick check-in again with Ali Raza, a strategic advisor at the Saudi Arabia holding company. Ali, just wanted to ask you a very simple question before we close. I mean, what is the economic impact of the Hajj on Saudi Arabia?
Tom, the Hajj is, of course, sacred to Muslims across the world. So if you consider the population of several billion people, all considering it's an important requirement of their lifetime to visit. Naturally, this is a big aspect of this. Now, I mean, related to that, there's also a range of services and infrastructure that's needed to facilitate all of this. So in Vision 2030, there is a dedicated program for the Pilgrim Experience. So the Pilgrim Experience program is a key initiative out of the 11 to develop the quality of that experience for people visiting from around the world. And one of the intentions was to achieve an 85% satisfaction rate of services that are provided in the Hajj and Umrah program, by the way. And it's estimated that the Hajj time adds anywhere up to 30% revenue to the local surrounding economy. And of course, the Umrah is year-round and also a key part of the pilgrim experience. So it's not limited to simply the Hajj period. So if you were to extrapolate this across the year and consider the infrastructure, urban development, services, healthcare, and general travel-related services required, it's a very significant impact to the economy, but also an impact that's related to something that is very sacred and very personal to many people around the world.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for that. Ali Raza, strategic advisor at the Saudi Arabia holding company. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Pleasure.
Well, that's all we have time for. Thank you very much indeed for watching the Riyal Deal here on Al Arabiya English. See you again next week.